welcome here to a very special Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for you. Inside, as always, of the Cafe Cubal studios, and you knew the Wake Up Call logo, this new logo with the sun rising out of the coffee cup. Fill that cup with whatever you like from Cafe Cubal. We are here for a very exciting opportunity. You know that every Thursday, the man of the first hour of the show and leaking into the second hour always, PJ from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time, exclusively on Wake Up Call. Papa Joe with us every Thursday for his expertise from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, wakeupcalldt.com, facebook.com/live-now-dt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. We always have Papa Joe on, but this is a special to see his face and to have this awesome opportunity. So as this week was jam-packed full of stuff, we didn't forget about Papa Joe, and he's here with us on video. So my man, PJ, how are we doing?
Good morning, Daniel. This is a lot of fun. Beautiful weather down here.
You got your Chevrolet shirt on, so you're repping the Chevrolet.
I know. I just wish I could go out and play with them, but I may get out there pretty soon. I'm feeling a lot better. The medical marijuana that I've been using apparently has been helping me a little bit.
Well, good. I'm happy that you're feeling better, and I'm happy that you're doing better. I'm happy I got to see you recently, and hopefully I'll be seeing you very soon. I do want to let you know there's a new show on Netflix that Netflix created. It's a sitcom, and you got to watch it.
What's it called?
It's called The Crew, and it's got Kevin James, the comedian, and it's a show. I've never seen a show like this before. It's a show dedicated to, the entire setup is that Kevin James and all these people that are cast members in the show, they're in a NASCAR like pit crew, and they're responsible for, keeping this NASCAR thing going. And so it's the background of this NASCAR team, but it's a comedy show. So it's a really great sitcom, like a Friends or like a Seinfeld or something like that, but it's all roped around a NASCAR team and racing, which is really innovative and different.
Yeah, that would be fun to look at.
So you got to check it out. I watched all 10 episodes in 2 days. Couldn't help myself. So are you watching any racing? You doing any of that lately?
No racing. I am actually, I haven't watched. I've been involved with NASCAR for a couple of years. What I do watch is IndyCar racing. I like that a lot better, more exciting. Street, oval doesn't make any difference. They're fast and it's scary, so it's worth watching. So my NASCAR days are over. When all the guys that I followed retired, I didn't want to tag along with these new young kids.
Who are your favorites? Who are your favorite NASCAR drivers?
Oh my gosh, I had Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, Jeff Gordon, of course, Junior. So many guys that are in their 40s actually that retired early. And Carl Edwards is another one. One guy keeps racing, and that's Carl Busch. Kurt Busch is still racing in his 40s. And Jimmy Johnson, of course, is retired now. Jimmy Johnson will be racing in NASCAR, not in NASCAR, but in IndyCar, specifically on the road courses for I'll think of it a little bit. Tony Stewart's another one of my buds that I got. I got a story about that. I was cleaning out my garage.
Yeah. And
one guy was coming. It was a plumber. He was fixing something I had in looking at the garage. He's looking all over the place. I got a lot of stuff in my garage, as you know. So he's looking around. He says, "Damn," he says, "you got all this Tony Stewart stuff." He said, "He's my favorite guy." And I said, "I'll tell you what, pal, you can have it, because he switched from Chevrolet to Ford, and I'm not following him anymore." So I had a life-size statue of a paper statue of him, and a bunch of little small stuff. And he was tickled pink. He said, "I can have it all." I said, "Hell yes, take it all with you." So he put it in his truck, and that was good.
Yeah, so I mean, that's how you are though. Like they go from Chevy to Ford, and you drop them. Is that as easy as that?
No. If you don't drive Chevy, I don't follow you.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Why Chevy? Why did you pick Chevy?
Oh, you grow up. When you grew up in my time, you had actually three types of cars to deal with. You had Chevy, Ford, and Dodge to some extent. But Dodge fell by the wayside, and you grow up, you either drive Chevy cars or you drive Ford cars. When I was from in New York, of course, and that's the way it is. I've always enjoyed the Chevys. That's all I've ever driven was Chevys, except for the last couple of years with these foreign cars. So, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the Chevys. Got my 57 out there, ready to rock and roll.
What makes a Chevy so special?
Well, they're built well, and there used to be an old saying in the old race days that you could get a Chevrolet 6-cylinder, back it up against a tree, put a brick on the accelerator, and just let the car spin into the tree, and the engine would never quit. In those days, it was called the Stove Bolt 6, the Stove Bolt 6 engine, and Chevrolet's got their that's where they got their name from. They're tough. They're tough.
And I like the fact that whenever I come down to Florida, I always rent a car, and you always laugh at like what I get, because I always get a small car because I don't need anything big, but I don't get a car that like necessarily I would buy, but you always call them, well, you call them, what boxes. Yeah.
Crap boxes.
Yeah. You always ask me, you're like, do you have to wind it up to get it down the road and all that stuff?
Yep.
I brought some interesting cars there when I've rented cars.
Yes. Mostly for them, but that's okay. If you were here for a longer time, you'd probably rent something different. They're expensive though. I mean, you can't look at the Chevy cars and the Ford cars that we knew over the years. In the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to be they're going to be gone. Most of the the manufacturers are going to be sticking with their trucks, which of course is their number one seller.
Yeah.
Chevrolet will stick with their Corvette. Ford will stick with their Mustangs. And frankly, that's all they sell. That's all they make money on is Corvettes to some extent, and the Chevy trucks. Look at the number one selling truck in the world is the Ford F-150. Right behind it is the Chevy Silverado. And then you got the Dodge Ram. They're really, and they're holding their value. You can get they're expensive. I mean, I know the guy across the street, Matt, he needed a different truck. So we went and bought a late model Dodge Ram with 175,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
You still had to pay $8,000 for it. So, if you buy a pre-owned truck, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money.
So, I mean, I told you what I always wanted to get. Well, at least for the last good while, is a Chevy Camaro because I like Bumblebee. And sure. I said I wanted to go get like a yellow one with a black stripe, or like an orange one or something like that. Is there a chance that you and I at some point could go to one of these auctions and look at one of these things?
Of course. When you come down, if you time it right, which is the last 2 weeks in January is when Meekum has their auction at Kissimmee. That would be a lot of fun. That's where we bought a few of our cars. So yeah, it would be a lot of fun. But you gotta be ready to spend some money, buddy.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, what are you looking at price wise? What's the normal?
Oh, Daniel, there's no rhyme or reason when you go to an auction. It's all hit or miss. If you're looking for something and you've been following it and you see it in the advertisements and the car comes across the auction line and you want to bid on it, that's fine. But most of the time, you have to go look at the cars, and then you go inside the auditorium and you start bidding on them if you want to.
I got to tell you that, for me, what like bucket list is I have to go to an auction with PJ. I got to do an auction with Papa Joe.
Oh yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
That's a definite.
Joe too. I mean, Joe, he's a stinker. He is a stinker. We went to an auction, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. It was at Kissimmee. And I'm saying, Joe, listen, I don't want to buy anything. I want to look around. I got to see maybe some value, but I'm not looking. All of a sudden, before I know it, he's got me bidding on an 88 Pontiac Firebird piece of junk. I hated it. Hated it when we bought it. I hate it now that I finally got rid of it. But you know, he's a stinker. He sucked me into that. It was supposed. He said, "Dad, it's supposed to be a project for us." And I says, "Joe, not a project like this. Too much money goes into it. We're lucky we broke even on it."
So, and you've been able to do so many different things. I mean, I remember going into Joey's old house and seeing that he had pulled the engine out and it was kind of just hovering there. So he had like he was doing all that. So it's not that you just go to the auction and you get these vehicles, but you trick them out, you bring them back to their, you'll find the pieces that make them their original ways. You'll touch up the paint, you'll go into the engine, you'll put different things into it. I mean, you essentially have created an art out of going and getting a car, because once you get it and you bring it to your house, it doesn't just sit there. You work on it, you make it run again. If it's not running, you make it run better if it needs to be. And you've essentially, you school yourself on it and you kind of make it like your artwork, so to speak. So what can you say about that to all my, car heads out there and everybody that loves this stuff, that you don't just go to the auction and do your research and watch different things, but once you get it home, that's when the real magic starts.
That's true. It takes a lot of work, Daniel. It takes a lot of money. These cars can sometimes be, well, not sometimes, a lot of times could be called money pits. They're just like a boat. You keep pouring money in them and you just don't get your value out of them. The only way to do that is to buy one retail from somewhere, maybe a private seller who's got an old Camaro for $3,000 or $4,000. Then you put it up on blocks in your garage and you start working on it if you know how to do that stuff. But it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time.
And for you, what keeps you in it and excited about it? I mean, do you have something you haven't done yet that you want to do? Is there something that you haven't been tested with yet that you'd love to be tested with? I mean, what can you tell me about that?
Well, I've been pleased with what we've done over the years. We had a 50 Chevy that we had really brought back to beautiful condition, and Mary used to drive that too. She used to stick shift it. A lot of fun with that. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of effort. Again, time and effort, and it takes money. And if you got a bunch of buds that know what they're doing, you bring them over maybe for an afternoon. You buy them some sandwiches, and they mess around with the car for 2 or 3 hours. The only thing you don't want to do is you don't want to try to paint these things yourself, unless, of course, you are a painter. Now, some of these classic guys are painters, and if you can paint your own car, you've done a long way. But that's the majority of the cost. Now, I have a '57 Chevy that's in pretty good shape. We've got it in actually really good shape. It runs well, starts well. It has some cancer spots on it, but in order for me, now I don't do painting. I only do touch-up painting, like in the engine area and things like that. But if you're going to do painting like that on a '57 Chevy, which is one of the classics of all time, you're going to spend $10,000 to $12,000. That's just to paint it, and then you got to do all your mechanical work. So if you buy a car for say $5,000, and you start to put a little mechanics in, and you're changing this, you're changing that, put new tires on it, put new brakes on it, and then you got to paint it. All of a sudden you got $20,000 in it, and you got to determine whether that car is worth $20,000 or more. If not, you got to hold on to it or sell it at a loss, which you don't want to do.
What's the greatest car of all time?
Well, I'm prejudiced to that. It's the Corvette, of course, the Chevy Corvette. The Ford man would say it's the Ford Mustang, of course. And there's so much to see in them. Once you get them in your garage, you start looking around, you say, geez, I didn't know they did that, or wow, how about that? That's the kind of stuff, you get excited about it. I used to get excited, but I still do. I just can't do the work anymore. That's why I got the meatball to come over and do it.
Yeah, coming from Papa Joe here this morning, talking about cars and having some fun. So if those of you thought you're in Jay Leno's garage, I would tell you you're in a better garage right now. So
no, Jay Leno he's a consummate collector. Money's not an object for him. And I got a few guys that have really big garages that have spent a lot of money on them. So, and one of my buds I'm pretty close to, and he spends his winters his summers at the Bar Harbor, Maine. Then he spends his winters down here at Palm Coast, and he's got a museum. He's got about 20 cars that are nondescript. It takes your breath away to look at some of these cars. Some of these cars haven't even been driven in 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
He keeps them there, and that's what he wants.
What can you, the Prairie Bronze, the one that's Mary's baby that'll never be
Right.
sold. Tell me about that one, because I got to do something historically with my show, which I think is incredible. And that was the opportunity to broadcast live from inside of the vehicle. So tell everybody the color, make, and model of the vehicle that got to be my studio for the day.
All right, that's a good one. We're going back 6 or 7 years or so, and Mary was just getting ready to retire. So I says, let's just go over to Mecum auction and Kissimmee and mess around. Yeah, we don't have to buy anything. Make a long story short, she sees the Mustang, comes across the line, and I buy it. And we go look at it, and we had already looked at it because we'd seen it before. We'd seen it as it was being staged, and it was in excellent shape. I mean, the Prairie Bronze is the color. The interior is immaculate. The engine department is clean. It runs great. And you take them home and you look at it and you say, "Damn, how did I get this car?" And it's a beautiful car, and that's probably one. If I ever have to liquidate, that's probably one we're going to have to keep, because she won't let me get rid of that.
And being able to, and now we have the video component and different things we do. I did the internet streaming radio worldwide from inside of there, but what would it look like to do another show in there? What do you want to showcase, and how do you want to do it? Because I think we should do it up big next time.
Do it what?
Like, do it up big. I think we should have another show.
Oh, sure. We can advertise the heck out of it. My Mustang happens to have factory air conditioning, which a lot of them didn't back then. So when you were sitting in the car, the air conditioner wasn't working all that good at that time. It just needed a Freon shot. But we could blow it right up and maybe stick it out in the underneath the covering there, and put your signs around and say broadcasting live from Papa J's 65 Mustang. And of course, Mary's got to get involved too,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. So I love that we got to start the conversation talking about cars and talking about a passion. We're here with Papa Joe in a special video here with us, and I'm so happy you see him, or you hear from him every Thursday on Wake Up Call live from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, wakeupcalldt.com, facebook.com/live now DT, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Now you get to see him in this very special video and hang out with him here. So PJ, let's you got a lot of stuff, a lot of topics that were on your mind outside of the car world. What's the next thing you want to talk about? I'll let you lead the way.
Well, the NCAA tournament is looking pretty interesting, but most of the seeds are doing well. It's very difficult to pick a winner with Sweet 16 left. You got to give the nod to Gonzaga, because they've been there from the get-go. And look, if you don't knock the number one off, you don't win the whole tournament. I do like Gonzaga, of course, but there is a sleeper that I like. I shouldn't call them a sleeper. They're a really good team, and that's FSU. You don't get me to say kudos about FSU too much, Daniel.
I know.
Mary's over here laughing, and they just have an extremely talented team. Their length is unbelievable. They're just like tentacles everywhere. They look like they're octopus. They're all over the place. And Michigan, they're going to play Michigan. And I've liked FSU from the get-go. And I do like them in this game, even though we're a 4-point underdog. Michigan in the Big Ten, again, is overrated. They're losing. They've lost a lot of games. I think Michigan's the only one left. And on the flip side, there's an Alabama-UCLA matchup I thought was good too. Alabama, watched them all season long, beat the crap out of the SEC teams. Big, strong, another athletic team. Love watching these guys play basketball. So I'm just going to watch it this weekend and see where it goes. I'll see what FSU does against Michigan and see if their length makes a big difference.
And of course, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And of course, with the girls, I can't forget my Yukon girls. I've been following Yukon for 20 years since Gino Armorano has been there. And he's got an amazing group of girls again this year. He's got an All-American freshman. And they're also playing at Iowa State, which happens to have another All-American freshman. They both average over 20 points a game. They're both exceptional players. It's going to be a good game to watch. But, you know, UConn has to be the favorite in the women's side.
Yeah, you know, and we look at the facts, and to go to the men's side, go back to the men's side, and then go to the women's side here. You know, when we look at the bracket for the men, the committee, just like we had the college football playoff committee, all obsessed with the Big Ten and
Right.
loving up the Big Ten, and let's make sure the Big Ten has everything. And Ohio State, oh, Big Ten can't play in the championship because you didn't play enough games. I'll change the rules. Oh, Ohio State needs to get their guys healthy. Oh, we'll change the rules. Oh, let's make sure we get in a team that's played half the season, but because, you know, we got to make sure because it's not. Yeah, okay. So they did it again. The NCAA committee, this time around, that's the committee that does it. And they say, just like the college football playoff committee, we're high on the Big Ten. They bring in 9 schools from the Big Ten, more than any other conference. And there's one left, Michigan, who I believe is the most vulnerable number 1 seed going into the tournament. I have Florida State beating them in my bracket. That bracket is alive. I mean, the only bracket that I have that is not alive is the South, but my Midwest bracket, my East bracket, and my West bracket are all very much alive. 3 of my final 4 are still very much alive. And so I have FSU beating Michigan, which would secure the knockout of the Big Ten. 9 schools knocked out before the Elite 8, which is, you know, it's crazy. You know, Illinois and Ohio State played for the Big Ten championship. Both got knocked out. Ohio State got knocked out in the first round by Oral Roberts, a 15 seed. Illinois got knocked out by Loyola Chicago, which I picked to happen because you don't bet
Dominic for our lady.
You don't. Yeah, I mean, you do. You don't overlook Sister Jean. So
no, you don't look at it.
The Sweet 16 now in the West, Gonzaga, number 1 seed, 5-seeded Creighton, who I always want to get far, but I never imagine that they will because the Blue Jays usually trip somewhere, but I can't have them getting past my Zags this time as much as I like Creighton. USC and Oregon are going to have a rematch of the Pac-12, number 6 seeded USC, number 7 Oregon. Oregon advancing after not having to play VCU in the only game that was canceled due to Corona. Michigan, a number 1 in the East, up against 4 Florida State. UCLA, a play-in game that defeated Michigan State in overtime to defeat BYU, to defeat Abilene Christian, who won their first game in the tournament ever. So UCLA advances. Alabama, the 2 seed, advances in the East. In the South, Baylor 1, Villanova 5 advance. Arkansas, a 3 seed that was held tough. You know, Colgate pushed them very much so in the first half of their game and parts of the second half. They got through that and then got through Texas Tech barely by 2. And then Oral Roberts, after defeating Ohio State, proves that it wasn't a fluke. They take down the Big Ten, then they take down the SEC in Florida. They move on as a 15 seed. And then in the Midwest bracket, Loyola Chicago as an 8 seed up against 12 seeded Oregon State, who got into the tournament by winning their first ever Pac-12 tournament for the Beavers. Syracuse, an 11 seed, doing what they got to do. And when they're a double-digit seed, they almost seem to play better up against 2 Houston. And Houston came back and won by 3 by hitting free throws at the end of the game and getting 2 crucial offensive rebounds late in the matchup against a Rutgers team that saved there from being a rematch between Syracuse and Rutgers from the ACC Big Ten Challenge earlier on in the season. So with all that mouthful, there's a lot of stories, and I want to go bracket to bracket. We're going to go visit these locations. So we go to the West. Gonzaga, Creighton, USC, Oregon. Gonzaga, a 1 seed over and over again throughout the years. Creighton inside of the Big East, didn't have a great showing at the Big East tournament. So what do you think about that matchup? And what do you think about the Pac-12 meeting each other with USC and Oregon? And then the background of the fact that we don't know if Oregon would have gotten past VCU. They were the only team to advance due to somebody forfeiting.
You know, I just don't see enough of the West Coast basketball to give an opinion about that. But I do follow Gonzaga because they're a first-class place. They graduate their kids. They play hard ball. Coach Few, as He's brilliant. I mean, I don't know why he's not in the pros yet, but I think he's happy doing what he is at Gonzaga. I think this whole tournament runs through Gonzaga. I don't care what Oregon does or USC or anything like that. This whole thing runs through Gonzaga.
I agree. I have Gonzaga coming out of my brackets, and Iowa got bumped out and didn't really have a great showing against Oregon at all. And so, and also a weird thing that we look at the fact that Iowa had a jersey retired for a player in the season where he was still playing, when Syracuse doesn't retire jerseys until like 20 years after. What were your thoughts on seeing a jersey retirement of a current player at Iowa during the season?
Well, that's that Garza kid, isn't he? He's a beast.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty classy thing for them to do. And it disturbs me that you see a kid go through college like this. He's going to graduate. He's a big man, 6'11", 240 or 250, probably bigger than that. And yet the pros are not going to give him a sniff because he's, quote, not athletic enough, unquote. I'm so tired of hearing that junk. This kid's a bruiser inside. There's plenty of big, strong guys that play in the NBA that do well. He's not going to score 25 points a game or get 15 rebounds. No, but he'll be very usable. He should be a first-round draft pick. I have no problems with that. And he should make some coach very happy. He's a good kid and a good guy. But for them to say he's not athletic enough, that's BS.
And that's the thing, and that's the frustration. And, the fact that they say, well, he's really good and we're going to retire his jersey, but he probably won't have a good NBA career. The NBA doesn't make sense. The NBA buys on potential, but they don't buy on what you know. It's like if someone came up to you and said, Papa Joe, this product is such a good product, and over the years it's been consistently good and it works almost every time, and then they hand you another product and go, well, this just came off the line, it's experimental, we don't know if it works. And everybody buys the product, they don't know if it's going to turn your hair green or have your hair fall out, but then the one that's always good on your hair they throw in the garbage. So I don't understand the NBA because it's the opposite of the NFL and it's the opposite of the MLB. It's opposite of the NHL, where they buy on production, where the NBA buys on potential.
Right.
And that's,
you got to give this kid a chance. I mean, I'm sure he's feeling really bad because he wanted his team to go farther, but he's a first-class man and a first-class kid and a good player, and I hope he does well.
And we look into the East bracket. We talked about Michigan and Florida State. It's exactly what I had, and I had Florida State advancing. And then UCLA and Alabama. I thought Michigan State would make it to this point, but the irony is the team that won the play-in game did make it to this point. Alabama squeaked by in the SEC and found a way to navigate through to the SEC championship, but they were pushed by teams throughout, including the Tennessees of the world and whatnot. So what do you think about this bracket? Who comes out of the East? It does Florida State pull off the upset, so to speak, of Michigan? I don't like calling it an upset because I think Michigan's the weakest number 1 seed, but what do you think about this? And what do you think about Alabama at the bottom of the bracket?
I like Michigan. I like Alabama a lot. I said I've seen them play this year. They can get a little squirrely every once in a while, but they have an enormous talent, and they're just as long as Florida State. Michigan, again, I'm not a Big Ten guy, and I don't think I ever saw them play, but I saw Florida State play plenty of times. And one of the coaches in this country, Leonard Hamilton of FSU, does not get the credit that he deserves for putting FSU together in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
The man has had a sensational run. His guys love to play for him. He's a first-class guy. He should be making $7-8 million a year, but he's not. He enjoys working at FSU. And this year, of all the teams that I've seen him play, this one has a chance to do it all, Daniel.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Florida State. I've been saying it for the last 5 years at least, that this is a great team. Don't forget about this team. Don't overlook this team. They're not just a football school. And I said it repeatedly, and I interviewed them, and I feel like people just laughed. And I'm like, are you not paying attention to Leonard Hamilton? Last year, they could have been a number 1 seed. This year, they're a number 4 seed. And I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to beat Michigan. I think they're going to push Michigan, and they're going to advance to the Elite Eight. I have them going to the Final Four out of this bracket, defeating Alabama. So we'll see what happens. But I have believed in Florida State from a long time ago, and I respect Leonard Hamilton for the work that he has done. South bracket, Baylor, who I didn't know if they would get this far, and they did. So congrats to them, number 1 seed. Villanova, a 5 seed. They got embarrassed by Georgetown in the Big East tournament, but it's still Jay Wright. Arkansas, another team coming out of the SEC, and Oral Mother freaking Roberts, a 15 seed, who Jim Boeheim said very well could have the best backcourt, best 2 guards in the tournament. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've always been a Villanova fan because I love Jay Wright. I love the way he coaches, love the way he recruits. You're not going to beat Jay Wright at this time of year unless you throw your best at him, because he's going to make adjustments. He's got the players to do that. He's deep. I like Villanova to take the whole section.
And I think, and the funny thing is, I had North Carolina coming out of this, and again, just like one of the matchups I said before, where I said UCLA, but I had Michigan State, like whoever played that play-in game, I thought North Carolina, Villanova, whoever won that top part of the South bracket was going to go to the Final Four. But I'm hoping for Oral Roberts. I would love to see Villanova, Oral Roberts, or Baylor, Oral Roberts. No offense to Arkansas. I want to see Oral Roberts keep pushing it and making it happen. But Villanova, I've always had some respect for, always. And I know that Big East fans get mad at me about that love Syracuse. But Jay Wright, listen, they think when Boeheim's retired, Jay Wright's coming to Syracuse, you're out of your mind. So, I mean, this man was voted the coach of the decade, and in the last 10 years has won 2 national championships in this NCAA tournament, which is unheard of, to win 1, let alone 2 in a decade. So I love it. I think it's incredible. He's on a short list with the Coach K's and whatnots of the world. I like Villanova and Oral Roberts to go through, and I can say whatever I want at this point because my South bracket looks like a massacre. So I can at this point tell you whatever I want because it looks like Sunday sauce is all over my South bracket. In the Midwest, save the best for last, the story that I want to tell. Loyola Chicago, Oregon State. My bracket in the Midwest would have been absolutely perfect. I got every game right, except for I picked Oklahoma State over Oregon State. And I knew it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But Loyola Chicago I had, Syracuse I had, Houston I had, Oregon State I did not, but they have all advanced forward. Loyola Chicago is the 8 seed. Oregon State is the 12 seed. Syracuse an 11, Houston at 2. What do you think about this bracket, knowing that if Houston doesn't go forward, it's either an 8, a 12, or an 11 that's going to the Final Four?
Wow. Of course, the Loyola story is wonderful. To see the sisters on the court there just waving their little pom-poms. And I mean, it just tugs at your heartstrings. They don't have enough talent to go forward, Daniel. They just, they don't have enough. I mean, I don't like anyone in that section at all, except for Syracuse, because obviously we're from Syracuse, but I don't like anyone in this. I'd like to see Syracuse advance, but I don't like anyone from this bracket at all.
I'll tell you that I had this Syracuse-Houston game in my bracket, and Houston's the number 1 rebounding team statistically in the country. They were the number 1 rebounding team in the nation. And, coming in.
I didn't know that. That's a big play right there.
Yeah. And North Carolina, the number 2, and Syracuse defeated North Carolina at home. I was at that game in the Dome, and they won that 72-70. Syracuse now has to play Houston again. The last time they played Houston, Houston had Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler, and Syracuse defeated them in the Dome in front of 30,000 with Gene Waldron, Leo Routens, Eric Santafer and company. And I just talked to Gene about that. And so, and I think he told me Clyde had 28 points in the game. So Houston and Syracuse don't face off a lot. And now they have an opportunity to do it with the American. I cover the American. So I, during the American Athletic Conference tournament, interviewed Houston's head coach, interviewed Dejan Giroux from the team. So I've talked to Houston. I've watched their games. And so, Syracuse is going up against a team that's not totally off the grid for me personally. And, Loyola Chicago, listen, I want to see Sister Jean play my hometown. because that to me is my championship. If Sister Jean plays Syracuse, if Loyola Chicago Syracuse, then to me, I'm happy. I'm happy.
Mhm.
I know this is my hometown. I know Q's in the house. Oh my God, but you can't get mad at Sister Jean. Whoever makes it out of that game, or if at least one of them makes it to the Final Four, and Gonzaga's on the other side, that's my bracket. Like, that's my tournament. You got Gonzaga versus Sister Jean or Gonzaga versus Syracuse. I'm a happy guy. If Syracuse somehow could make it out of here and play Villanova, and Jay Wright has to go up against Boeheim again, huge.
Oh boy.
But
That's
to
huge.
me, like, I think Syracuse might catch a snag here, but Loyola Chicago, I got them. Keep going. And I got 3 of my Final Four still alive. I thought going into the tournament that Gonzaga would be in the final. I thought Houston would have a good shot. I love the way Syracuse is playing right now. I would love to see Sister Jean and Syracuse and Gonzaga on the other side. And above all things, I'm just enjoying this tournament that Florida State, who doesn't get respect, that Syracuse, who doesn't get respect, that Houston, who doesn't get respect, that Oral Roberts, who doesn't get respect, and Loyola Chicago, who hasn't gotten respect until the last couple of years, that all of these teams are here now and that they're fighting and they're still in it. And
Right.
I love the fact that the committee was dead wrong because they always treat Syracuse like garbage.
Let me ask you a question. You followed the team all year long. Is this kid Buddy Boeheim, is he that good?
He is. I mean, here's the thing. Buddy would be playing on any team. He got recruited by Mark Few at Gonzaga. And, Roy Williams in North Carolina went up to Jim Boeheim and said, you better take this kid. Like, basically, if you don't take your son, somebody's going to make a play for him. And so, to me, I think that Buddy, I mean, he's over 1,000 points in just 3 seasons and counting. He can hit threes, but he also is even keel. He smiles through everything. He doesn't seem to get rattled. He attacks the basket. He's a fire starter. He'll start him in scoring in the first half. He'll start him in scoring in the second half. He takes advantage of the mismatches. Even when a guy's fronting him in the same height or whatever, he'll still try to get his shot. He'll put his elbow into you. He'll put his head into you. He'll spin move on you. He'll go one-handed shot. He plays inside. He's getting better. And so I think Buddy is so much more than a shooter, just like I thought about Trevor Cooney. He's a hell of a kid. He's a really nice guy. And, we built a relationship about 1.5 years before he came into Syracuse. And I'm just genuinely happy for him. I'm proud for him. And I think that the reality to me is if Jim Boeheim wasn't the head coach, Buddy Boeheim would still be on the floor.
Did he go to school in Syracuse, high school?
Yes. Yeah. He went to school
CBA?
right in the Jamesville DeWitt.
Janesville DeWitt. Okay.
Yeah. So,
well, I saw him play the other day, and damn, the kid can shoot. That I can tell you.
Yeah, he can. And that's the thing is that, he's just been an incredible athlete, and he's worked his tail off, and I got nothing but respect for him. Played at Jamesville DeWitt and then went on to Brewster Academy in New Hampshire before coming to Syracuse. And, he's a leader, and he knows there's more work to be done. And he understands that. And he's very even keel. And you could tell that he's learned from his dad being a coach, because he knows how to kind of answer things as a coach instead of just like a young kid who may not get it. It seems like he gets it. So I got a lot of respect for him, a lot of appreciation for him. And I just really believe that,
It'll be fun to watch the tournament.
He's a special kid. So a lot of good stuff coming up in the tournament. I want to go to the women's side of things, as you brought up, PJ. So, the women's side of the bracket, obviously different. When you look at the men's side and you say, okay, there's all these teams that aren't supposed to be there. All the number 1 seeds are still alive on the women's side. NC State, South Carolina, Yukon, Stanford, all alive. Missouri State, Iowa, the 5 seeds both advanced to play the number 1 seed at Stanford, number 1 seed at Yukon. We'll have Yukon, Iowa, Stanford, Missouri State. Oregon, a 6 seed playing 2 seed at Louisville, 6 seed at Michigan playing 2 seed at Baylor. So at the top and the bottom of these brackets, exactly the same. 1 versus 5, 2 versus 6. And then on the bottom of the bracket, we see 1 South Carolina, 5 Georgia Tech, 1 NC State, 4 Indiana, 6 Texas up against 2 Maryland and 3 Arizona versus 2 Texas A&M. So the 2 seeds are all alive. The 1 seeds are all alive. So if we could say anything about the women's tournament is, their seeding usually pretty much shows you who's going to advance forward and make it. I love Coach Q. I have a great relationship with him personally and professionally, and I appreciate him and Von Reed and everybody, Tammy Reese, who helped build it, who's now with Rhode Island as a head coach. There's so much good to come from Syracuse. They ran into a buzzsaw. UConn is UConn. Tough game to watch, a tough game to see. But, UConn, Stanford, I would love to see somebody shock and make it interesting. But shout out to Georgia Tech and shout out to NC State coming out of the ACC, who are really making a push, in Louisville as well. But really, NC State, a number 1 seeded team. Love seeing that. And love seeing Georgia Tech still alive after their men's team had a great story this year. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming up on the women's side of things. And, PJ, I talked about it this week. The NCAA is hiring a firm to look at how they handle men's and women's basketball to give them advice on how to make it equal. So they're hiring an outside firm to help them to understand what equality and common sense is. I find it very interesting that they're paying money for a firm to tell them how to be a basic human being.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. As we know, the people that follow the college game knows that the women's side is always a little top heavy. You're just not going to get a bunch of teams like in the men's side to come up and do some serious damage and maybe even get to a quarterfinal or even a semifinal. But you're right. There's not going to be any difference this year. If someone's going to beat UConn or Stanford, especially, they're going to have to bring their A game, because those guys can beat you with their C game. So if you don't have your A game, you're not going to have it. It's sort of not, it's not really fun to watch it right now, because UConn routes everyone, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I thought that Syracuse played them tough for a while, and then all of a sudden, bang, they just took off. And the defense, they're so fast. Ariema has a way about how he coaches that has brought him international success, and also having, I don't know how many, 20 All-Americans probably at least from UConn. I mean, he recruits well. Not only that, next year's number 1 recruit is also going to be at UConn, and it happens to be the best friend of the girl that's the number 1 pick this year, Paige Bickner. So it's not going to get any better for the rest of the company. I'll tell you that. I do have to give you another shout out here, though. When I told you yesterday, our local team, Flagler College, they won their game last night on the Elite 8. They beat Truman State. They're now going to the Final Four for Division II, which is unheard of. And it's just our town is up, really excited for them. Excited.
And what I think is so cool is, like, you told me within the last couple of years, you're like, I was like, oh, what are you doing today? He's like, oh, and you told me and the meatball are going to a Flagler game, and Joey's taking me to Flagler, and you went again, and then you're going again. And then it became kind of like a normal thing for me to hear from you. I mean, for you to sit in the stands, just be a baseball fan, go out to a Flagler College game and watch them play, to see all of that over the last few years, and now they're in the Final Four. I mean, what does that mean to you, that like this team that you would just go and support and be there for no matter what, because you wanted to watch baseball and support a local team, that now that local team is now being represented in the entire country?
Right. They're in the Final Four of the Division II championship, and that's never happened before. Joe and I have been attending Flagler college baseball games for over 20 years at least. It's a warm spot in our heart because it's fun to watch. College athletics is fun to watch in its norm right now. But when it gets crazy, like when you're watching UConn run over people, or you watch Gonzaga run over people, there's always going to be the ones at the top that are not going to get knocked off unless it's a superhuman effort. Joe and I watch baseball. We want the team to win, of course, but we just want to see good baseball, good sportsmanship. It's fun. I'm happy for the team to make the Final Four in basketball, which is unusual, very unusual. They've never even, I don't think they've ever been in a tournament before. So they have a good team, obviously. I think they're 17-2 or something, and they have the leading scorer in the nation. This kid came as a transfer from Arkansas Little Rock, and he just took this team by storm, averages 25 points a game, and it's just a little buzzsaw everywhere. So I'll be looking to see that. Of course, you won't be able to see it on TV, but we'll be able to follow it somehow.
Yeah.
But
So
this time of year, baseball's starting up, Daniel, this coming Thursday.
well, and I tell my buddy all the time, I tell my buddy Ross, I go, it's fake news. I always tell him that because he sends me like the dead of winter, baseball's coming. I just found out in the forecast here in central New York that as much as it's been in the 60s, it's actually supposed to snow on opening day for baseball. It's supposed to be 36 degrees and snow on April Fool's Day.
Oh my goodness, that's awful. Well, I don't know what to say. Major League Baseball are greedy. There's no possible way that you should ever start a season April 1st. Why would you want to go to Chicago or Cincinnati or St. Louis and freeze your ass off, watch a baseball game? It doesn't make any sense. They should schedule these things to where these teams, the northern teams, should go down, play the teams in the south and the west, and then by the time mid-April comes around or early May, the things are growing. It's green, and you can actually sit in the stands and watch a game instead of being bundled up with a scarf on you.
Yeah,
well, I'm ready for them.
Yeah, so for the Yankees and the Mets and the teams up here, we'll be having snow weather right after having 70, 80-degree weather. So everybody wonders why everybody feels crappy up here with allergies, including myself. It's because I got to turn my air on, then my heat on, then shut them both off, then open the window. It's insane, but God is good. So PJ, baseball starting up, all that good stuff. What are you most excited about this baseball season? Who are the, who are your favorite players, and what team are you going to be watching the closest? And did Mary restore your MLB network?
Oh, she's got me the animal demon. Daniel, I'm so excited. And I'm trying to steal some games, and just not let me do that. I can't pirate any games. But this year, there was a lot of movement in the free agent market, and a lot of really good players changed teams. And frankly, when you got 9 guys on a field, and you got 1 or 2 guys that are hitting really good, it can carry a team. But let's face it, if you follow baseball, you know what's happened over the winter. I can tell you that baseball season is going to go through the National League West, where the Dodgers and the Braves have just blown away the free agent market and got all these guys that are coming over there. You got the Dodgers got Mookie Betts last year, paid him $350 million. He's a hell of a player. They got Clayton Kershaw. They got a great pitching staff. Then you got the Padres, who brought in Machado, and who's the other big guy they just brought in? I'll think of it. But those 2 teams are going to be in the forefront of the West, and the rest of the teams are also ran. You got the Yankees, of course. They're going to take over the American League East. They're a little iffy this year because of pitching. You got Garrett Cole, who throws 99 miles an hour. He was a Cy Young Award winner for Houston. Signs with the Yankees for $350 million. After him, though, the pitching gets a little shaky. And then they got a bunch of guys that can just club the ball out of the park. Aaron Judge and Ames and a bunch of these guys. Frankly, I think the Yankees are going to rise or fall on the arm of Corey Kluber, who used to be with Cleveland, and he was a Cy Young Award winner twice. And he's with the Yankees. He's not right. I don't know if he can get through the season, but if he's anywhere near good, and they can pair him with Garrett Cole, then the Yankees will be all right. Yankees like to outslug teams 11-10. Very rarely do you see unless Cole is pitching, do they win a game 3-0 or something like that.
Yeah.
Used to playing really well over the years. You got Freddie Freeman, always an All-American. You got the Mets. They just got Linder from Cleveland and paid him something like $300 million. They got absolutely electric arms in DeGrom and Syndergaard. So you got 5 teams right there that are just loaded with good arms and good bats. And all it is this the luck of the draw, and see what happens. So you see how they play on the road, see how they play in inclement weather. These guys don't like to go. These guys don't like to go to New York City and wear their long johns when playing 35-degree weather, or Boston or Washington. It's not fun to do that. I mean, if you played baseball in the cold weather, I remember that if you didn't hit the ball exactly right, the hell would sting the hell out of your hands, and you're not going to go anywhere. So, those 5 teams are the top for me: the Dodgers, the Padres, the Yankees, the Braves, and the Mets. There's some also rans down there. You got the White Sox that are going to be good this year. They got Lance Lynn, who is a good quality pitcher. You got the Blue Jays have just got George Springer from the Astros. That's going to be a good team. The Astros themselves have Altuve, Carrera, and a bunch of good arms. They were the World Series champions 3 years ago. Of course, they got that stigma of them cheating, and a lot of teams haven't forgot that, and a lot of fans haven't forgot that, and they still boo them when they come on the field. So they have a lot to work for. They got to clean their image up a little bit. And you got the Rays. The Rays every year, I don't know how they do it. They got a shoestring budget. Imagine paying Cole $350 million, and Tampa Bay's entire roster doesn't amount to $85 million. Yet they got the guys to come down there and play for nothing. They wind up doing well. They get a good free agent contract with someone else. They got a great system down there. Kevin Cash does a good job. They got a good farm system, and the Rays will be there. They'll nickel and dime you to death, and they'll be there. And you got the Nationals with Steven Maxier and Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin, trio of aces. They live and die by their arms. Their hitting's not that good, but they're going to be tough. You got the Athletics, Marcus Semien. I don't see them going anywhere. The Cardinals picked up Paul Goldschmidt and picked up Nolan Arenado of Colorado and paid him a bunch of $100 million. Colorado just absolutely I don't know what's the matter with those guys. They made some terrible deals over the last couple of years. But now you got down to my Angels, who I will follow every day they're on, thanks to Mary. Mike Trout, they still haven't built a team around Trout. Trout is his 9th year. He's been MVP 3 times. He's been in the top 3 8 of the 9 times. He's the best player in baseball and has been the best player in the last 50 years. But he doesn't throw the ball, doesn't strike out any people.
Yeah.
You have to have pitching to go with him. He's got a couple of good. You got Anthony Rembert that they brought in for $250 million from Washington last year. They got Mark Pujols is still playing for him, not doing very well because he's the last year of a $225 million contract that he signed with St. Louis, 10 years ago. He's on his last leg. They just don't have enough around Trout, pitching wise, to keep them in the games. Trout himself can't beat you. If the Red Sox giving up Jackie Bradley goes to my Brewers. The Red Sox lose Jackie Bradley. They still got Bogaerts, Devers, J.D. Martinez. They got an awesome hitting team. Pitching will be their problem. I can go on and on and on and on, but there's not a lot of good with the rest of these teams because they just don't have enough players. Now my team, the Brewers, they got the best player in their particular conference, which is Christian Yelich. They just picked up Jackie Bradley from Boston, so that's going to be a good guy to pair with him in the outfield. I think that Yelich himself, the Brewers do not have good pitching. Yelich himself can carry a team. Yelich can hit 350 with 50 home runs and 125 RBI. He's that good. He was the MVP a couple of years ago. Last year's season, was a kaput for mostly everyone because it shouldn't even been played. But the Brewers look like they're going to be tough this year. It all depends on how Yelich plays. You know, you can pitch around Yelich if you don't have the other players to hit for you. So, you know, that's it in a nutshell with the baseball, Daniel. Not really more to say. I'm looking forward to the start of it. I want to see my Brewers and the Angels play well.
Yeah, and I think it's incredible. You just brought us around the league, and basically, if people didn't know anything about baseball in the upcoming season, you just gave them a crash course in it. And
Yeah.
and I appreciate that for me and for everybody. Thursday, April 1st, on April Fool's Day, we will start off the Major League Baseball 2021 season, and it will start at 1:05 p.m. Eastern time, and the last game will be at 10:10 p.m. Eastern time. So day one of Major League Baseball this season in 2021 will start on April 1st and end on April 2nd with San Francisco at Seattle. So huge, big stuff coming up. PJ, final notes, final words. Jacksonville Jaguars, we always talk about them. What are you hearing over there? I know that when we brought up Carlos Hyde returning to Jacksonville, who used to be under Marone in a project that didn't really work out. He was behind a line that was very injured. So I don't know if he ever got his fair shake at it, but we did not mention that Urban Meyer and Carlos Hyde know each other. So I know that was a point you wanted to make, and anything else you want to say about the Jaguars?
Well, Urban, he has a connection with his players far beyond when their season is over with, even at Florida and at Ohio State. And Carlos Hyde was one of his players at Ohio State. And he said, listen, I'm not playing for anyone else except Coach Meyer. And there's just a love there between them. So however Meyer can use him, I'm sure Carlos will be appreciative. There's not really a lot going on down here. Meyer made a big fuss about the free agent. He doesn't like the free agency. He said it's not good business, quote unquote. He said he wants to see people in front of him. He doesn't want to talk to an agent or look at tape or anything like that. He said it's not good business, and I don't blame him. There's a couple of free agents that they signed. Dorsett and Jones are going to be good for a rookie quarterback because they're pros. They know their way around the league. They can help a Trevor Lawrence. There's a lot of talk down here. Just yesterday it started about Minshew being traded. They're talking about that. We talked about yesterday about Beathard signing up. So they got 4 quarterbacks, and if you're not gonna keep Luton, you're gonna have to trade Minshew. And I think Minshew can bring some value. Other than that, there's they've got the Jaguars 32nd in power rankings, which is really low. But then we don't know what they got. We don't know what the product is going to be on the field. We know that it's going to be good. We know that Meyer he'll coach 100 hours a week, Daniel, to get this thing off the ground. He's driven. That's what got him sick at Florida, and that's what got him sick at Ohio State. He just runs himself into the ground, and he's going to do that here. But difference here, he's got 30 coaches that can help him. He doesn't have to do everything himself. He's got some good offensive coordinators. He's got a good quarterback coach. Lawrence is not going to be. Lawrence will have everything available to him to learn how to play this game.
Yeah, and looking at this team right now, I mean, a lot of wide receivers, and Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, Colin Johnson, Philip Dorsett, John Vea Johnson, Josh Hammond, Chris Conley, Dede Westbrook. You would imagine that Dede, Laviska Shenault, as well as Terry Godwin and Jamal Agnew. I would imagine that Dede, Laviska, DJ Chark, yes. Dede, maybe on the fence. Philip Dorsett, Marvin Jones. I imagine those guys are going to be on your team. I imagine those guys are going to be there. James Robinson, Raquel Armstead, you imagine they'll be there too. Carlos Hyde, his connection from Ohio State with Urban Meyer, that they would be there. Your quarterback's obviously open right now with Trevor Lawrence. You imagine Gardner Minshew is going to be gone with the addition of CJ Beathard from San Francisco, who I'm surprised they let go of because him and Nick Mullins have been bailing out Jimmy Garoppolo for 2 out of the last 3 years. And then defensively, Josh Allen there, Tyson Alualu coming in, helping you out, Jihad Ward coming from Baltimore, Dewan Smoot, Calebon Chason, who they got some from the draft last year. You would imagine he'll be there. Obviously, Miles Jack, Joe Schobert, Leon Jacobs, Trey Herndon. But there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of depth on here that you're going to have to figure out who's going to be making this team and who are they going to keep. Are they going to keep a Quincy Williams? Are they going to keep an Adam Gotsis? Are they going to keep Joe Giles Harris? There's names on this roster right now. DJ Hayden. Are they going to hold on to these players? Chris Claybrooks and whatnot. So, it's going to be interesting to see when camp starts and it opens up and who they draft here coming up very, very soon, how this is going to shake out with so many wide receivers. And, at this point, 7 running backs on the team and a lot of depth at certain positions, but are they going to keep the depth? And where they don't have it is on the offensive line. So you'd imagine they'll shed some linebackers or shed a corner or two or shed some of these defensive players on a line that is featuring so many different guys that they're trying to figure out. It seems like all these defensive linemen are not going to be here, and linebackers and running backs and some of these wide receivers are probably not going to be here when all is said and done. The roster is cut down, and that Jacksonville will look to fill some of those spots on the offensive line, probably in the draft, and then, do what they have to do defensively. But if I had to say where the cuts are going to be made, wide receiver, linebacker, definitely defensive line and running back. We're going to see some shifting in Jacksonville as Urban Meyer tries to figure out what he has, and he sees what the draft gives him as well.
That's true. And he's going to have some really tough decisions. You're right. There's an awful lot of young talent on this team. And I just love Laviska Shenault. I just love the way he plays. I think he's going to be a good slot guy. He's a beast. He's a beast. He can go up and get it. He can run it. DJ Shark, these are good quality guys we're talking about. These are not run-of-the-mill guys. And these are the kind of guys that Urban Meyer is going to keep. He's going to keep these kind of guys, but he can't keep everyone. He's going to have his heart ripped out when he has to go down to the final 53. He's going to have some heart-wrenching decisions. Hopefully, maybe they can turn around and sign him back up as a free agent, or maybe on a practice squad or something like that. But I want to see things start. I can't wait to see things start. I want to go watch them. I want to go see. I want to go watch a scrimmage or watch a workout if we could. I don't know if we can do. You could probably swing that, couldn't you? If you came down.
I mean, the hope is that we'll have some normalcy here, and I'll be able to get back to some things that I want to do or some things that I haven't gotten to do. But I definitely I want to do everything that the Jags will allow me to do to see what's going on with this team this year.
Oh, it's going to be fun to see this team this year. And I want to see them. They did a good job in free agency. And they have all these picks in the draft. Urban Meyer's going to have 80 guys, for crying out loud, and he's going to like 70 of them, but he can't keep them all.
Yeah.
So, but that's the problem.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see him start.
That coming from Papa Joe in our special here over the weekend. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And yet I did Monday through Friday, then I did Saturday, Sunday, then I did Monday through Friday. And here we are on a Saturday morning, 13 days straight. And what a perfect thing to do, because the world's, what did you call him? The world's heaviest painter or something like that.
My world's largest painter.
World's largest painter. So my grandfather's favorite number, 13, and it's 13 days straight of Wake Up Call. And what better way to celebrate with Papa Joe, who comes from that family, who has given me so much love and respect and appreciation and taught me so much. So in memory of you, Papa Joe and I here with you, bringing you 13 days straight of Wake Up Call on a Saturday morning, talking about the NCAA tournament, men's and women's, talking about the craziness of the NCAA, speaking about classic cars and all that good stuff. Eat your heart out, Jay Leno, as well as getting into Major League Baseball, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and more. Papa Joe, in closing, you get to put me on the hot seat. 3 questions. You can ask me anything you want. You got 3 of them. Ask away. Put me on the hot seat.
All right. Where would you like to visit next?
Italy. Done.
Very good.
My
Very
buddy
good.
sends me pictures of Italy every single day. My buddy Matt, that's all he sends me is pictures of Italy. And I told him that if he sends me another picture, he has to take me. So,
All right.
Italy.
You are now driving a Honda, right?
Yes, sir.
What other car would you like to buy?
A Tesla with the doors that come up like the DeLorean on Back to the Future.
The DeLorean. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so I want to have a Tesla. Yeah.
Those are becoming very valuable in the classic car market. They're ugly as can be, but
Not this
geez.
one. This one's pretty.
All right. Okay, now I got one more left.
Okay.
What's your favorite ice cream?
Well, my favorite place to go is Carvel. And I don't say that because we work together. Carvel DeWitt's incredible, but I mean, my family's always had Carvel ice cream cakes. So I would say I love Carvel, but my favorite ice cream is probably soft serve. It's a good old twist. And with that little curl on the top.
Oh, sure.
And then my favorite hard ice cream is chocolate chip cookie dough.
Of course. Chocolate for me too. Chocolate chip what?
Cookie dough.
Oh, geez, Daniel. God, that's rat gut.
They're coming from Papa
It tastes
Joe,
good.
myself, Dan Tortora, here with you on a special because we couldn't just keep Papa Joe away from you this weekend. You can't wake up on a Saturday without a good old Papa Joe. So
Thank you, Daniel.
we're here with you. And, Lane's got his train. We got Papa Joe. I think we're winning. So,
All right.
as always, PJ, I love you. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you in just a little while down in Florida.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.